Welcome, everybody, to the State of the Micro.blog platform session this afternoon at MicroCamp. Afternoon where I am, Pacific Northwest. Hey, I'm G. MacDonald. I'm the community manager here at Micro.blog. I realize I haven't introduced myself all weekend. At Gene on Micro.blog, and I have Manton, who is at Manton here. He's the creator and founder of Micro.blog, and Vincent at Vincent, also on Micro.blog. Nice. We're a little Star Trek oriented today after the last session, which had a lot of Star Trek references in connection with Mars Edit. And we had a great day so far of presentations, 4 awesome community member presentations, and those will be up on available for you to watch if you missed them, or if you wanted to watch them again. There's a lot of information to take in, and so I just want to thank Chris, Miraz, Anna, and Mandaris for doing the excellent job and putting in all that work to give us such great presentations. And I just want to say, announcement-wise, we are going to have at 2:00, so about an hour from now, technical God's willing, we're going to have an open Zoom happy hour, whatever drink makes you happy, or no drink, or whatever suits your time zone. We'll be just having a post MicroCamp hangout time, nothing formal planned, just chit chat with your fellow microbloggers. But we will, in that session, announce who wins the door prizes. And if you haven't checked out the door prizes, there's a link on, I think it's just, if you go to micro.blog/camp, there's some links there, and I'll put a link in the chat before we close it totally. We'll be drawing from the people who have entered for the awesome prizes. And with that, I just want to say one last thank you to everybody who participated last year in the Day in the Life of Photo Challenge, because we used those photos for today's and yesterday's slideshow. And I just really have been enjoying watching those looping by in between sessions, accompanied by the beautiful sounds, composition and performances by microbloggers Holly Honeychurch and Lawrence Warner, also known as Cerulean Sounds. So check that out. I don't know if we'll have another slideshow run today, but it's been awesome. Finally, don't forget, everything is covered by our community guidelines. So if you're in the chat and you're chatting, I just want to remind you that we have some guidelines for community interactions, and we just ask everybody to be respectful and constructive in their comments. And also, you can post questions in the chat. I will be gathering the questions for Manton and Vincent about things that are happening with Micro.blog, the platform, what we've done, and what we're doing next. So with that, I will hand it off to Manton to kick this off. Year in review or whatever.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us this weekend. I want to go kind of recap some of the things that we have been rolling out over the last, handful of months here, and then some forward-looking stuff, and then of course the questions. I have a list of a handful of things I was thinking about to mention here. The first is major improvements to the Fediverse and Mastodon integration. Not everyone cares about this, but this was a big effort over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months. We actually rolled out Mastodon support 2018, actually. So it's been over 4 years. It was near the end of 2018. And, it was fine, but there was a lot of improvements to be made to it. And we noticed where those kind of holes were as more and more people started being interested in the Fediverse over the last few months. So huge improvements to that, I think. There's still more we could do, but that was a big part of my focus at the beginning of this year. Another thing that was big that we just launched yesterday was Micro.blog 3.0. for iOS. And that is also a big effort. Vincent has been working on this for quite a while, over a year, I think. And I have jumped in a little bit and helped out from time to time. And it feels really good to get that shipped. Vincent, do you want to jump in and say anything about that process and
yeah, sure.
How we got here?
Yeah, cool. I'm on the spot. So yeah, we I think it was 2 years ago actually. We kind of started the code base for. I mean, it's a relative date. It feels like 2 years ago. We started just building out the first kind of rewrite to concentrate on Android. So we kind of spent that first half a year of that just getting it ready for Android, having something for Android, because at the time we didn't really have anything. So yeah, that's where it kind of started. And then we kind of shifted focus on making that also available on iOS. Now, iOS has been a little bit longer in the making because we also wanted to get, feature parity of the old version, mostly. I mean, not everything is in there in the 3.0, but we've kind of tried to have most features in for this kind of rewrite. So yeah, it's been a long road. I'm pretty happy with it. It works pretty well. It kind of really nice. Just get some tabs in there as well. A slight redesign, kind of new color to go with the website as well. So, you know, it's kind of nice parity there as well. But I mean, for us, having a code base that works across, you know, Android and iOS, I think that's really paying off, because we can basically just, I mean, it's like it's like web development basically, you know, with the app. So for us, it's kind of really easy to jump in, and we kind of share the skills there as well. So I think for Micro.blog, it's really good. We can iterate over that really quickly and bring in features as well that are on the web into the app. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really happy with the way it has come along. I think that it was a little scary to like basically throw out most of the old code base. I say most because we actually did bring a little bit over for the Markdown syntax highlighting on iOS, but I think it's totally worth it because we're going to be able to move more quickly now. So it was a bit of a reset, but now people on both platforms will feel like they're equally loved. And I mean, it's been a long time coming, and I feel really good about the change. I blogged about the direction and why we did it this way, and I think it's really going to pay off. So I'm excited to get that out there. Of course, there are other things still to do, but we put a lot into this release, so I hope people like it. So a few other things I wanted to mention. First of all, there's just a whole bunch of little bug fixes and optimizations. We started maybe a year ago or so, started documenting almost everything on news.micro.blog. And it's actually pretty fun to scroll back through that because, you know, pretty much every little change or big change is documented there. So it gives you a nice idea of what things have been worked on. And so bug fixes, optimizations, making things faster, publishing performance is something we always revisit, cross-posting performance. Micro.blog is a little bit different and strange in that the way it connects with external feeds potentially and brings them into the timeline and then spits them back out to other services. It's kind of complicated behind the scenes. And so we're always working to smooth that over so it feels natural. And I think we're getting close. It's way better than it was even a year ago, but of course there's still room to make it even better. Also, speaking of kind of cross-platform changes, I finally spent some time improving the web editor in Micro.blog. So like autocomplete of usernames is finally there. Sometimes I get so used to using like iOS and the Mac version that I kind of forget that if people are just using the web version, they're missing some things. So we also added some keyboard shortcuts to that, and we're going to do more there so that the web version, which is really everybody's first experience when they use the platform, because we don't hit you over the head with downloading the native apps, just making sure the web version is as good as possible. A few other things, we added the content delivery network, CDN, for photos on your blog. I think that's been a pretty positive change. Makes it quite a bit better for people around the world. And Twitter archive import, we spent some time on that, as Twitter was going through what they're going through, and a lot of people leaving. That was a nice thing. It's one of those interesting features that you kind of do it once and then that's what it is. It's like it was kind of a way to wrap up our support for Twitter. Speaking of, we still do have Twitter cross-posting enabled for a little bit longer. I believe July 15th was the date that we set for that to be ending. So you can continue to cross-post to Twitter automatically until that winds down. Bookmark and link archiving made a bunch of improvements to that. I have a whole bunch that I want to do that I'll talk and blog about at some point, but behind the scenes for people that are using Micro.blog Premium, when you link to something or bookmark it, we archive a copy of that page, and not just the page text, but also the images and styling. And that allows you to, if the website goes away, you still have a copy of it. And I think this is really powerful. And there's things we could do with this. I'll just say that going forward, things for search and things for kind of going back in time and seeing different versions of pages. So I'm really excited about that. And there's some work behind the scenes to continue to improve that feature. Some things with import, we added Substack import. And then more cross-posting, we added Blue Sky cross-posting support. And I wanted to mention one thing with this. We support a handful, like 5 or 6, 7 cross-posting services. It doesn't mean we love all of them and we endorse them. It's like Blue Sky is a bit controversial still. I wanted to support it because I felt like it kind of sent a message that like we are as open as possible. We want to help you get your blog posts out into the world. And Blue Sky, it's very interesting, their model, but it's also very, very early. But I think supporting it was important, but that doesn't mean we love everything about it. In fact, it borrows a lot of things from Twitter. I've seen people posting about this just recently and yesterday, that we do not have a Micro.blog because we don't love that sort of popularity contest, follower counts, likes. We don't really love that way of interacting with the timeline, but it's there if you want. And so I just wanted to kind of shout out to why that's there. Gina, Vincent, is there anything I'm missing that we've been working on that we should mention?
So much.
Well, we talked about a couple of things yesterday in the session, which I want to reiterate because this session is recorded and people will be able to refer to it. We added pronoun fields for your profile. So that's something that's been requested quite a bit. And, we finally got to it. I'm going to use finally.
Yeah, that's fair. It took a while.
It's something we could have gotten to maybe earlier, but we did it now. And hey, we're going forward. We're in general, the community features that are community related, so that help make the community a better place, a more inclusive place. We have some plans for keeping those projects moving forward. So pronouns is one. We've had accessibility descriptions on Micro.blog for a while, but we did. I know there was a point. We had to make sure they were getting cross-posted with photos to Mastodon, for example. I think there was a little bit of a lag there, and so we made that happen. And also, we've changed how we view the posts in the administrative timeline so that we can make sure that posts have that photos have alt tags. If we include them in Discover, either they have alt tags or there's a description, or again, Discover is hand curated, so we can be smart about what we include there now, and make sure photos that we include there are accessible to assistive technology that people use. And So those are a couple we've done lately.
Those are good. Thanks for mentioning those. And so thinking forward, I talk about sometimes how we don't totally plan out everything that we're going to do. And I think we can kind of get away with that because we do have a strong vision for like the types of things we want to do. So even though we sometimes sort of meander and work on things kind of, as someone said, like kind of as the wind takes us, like what seems important. The vision has always been there. And so I feel like that helps guide us. But we do want to do a better job of having a more public roadmap. So Jean was talking yesterday about having a more formal roadmap for community features, things so that we don't. So what happened with the pronouns doesn't happen again, where we have something that we want to do and then a year passes and it hasn't been bumped up to the top of the priority queue. And then a few other things along those lines that I'm personally interested in right now, and things that we've talked about, expanding curation to more people. This also came up yesterday, and we've always wanted to do that. And usually I say we just need better tools so that more people can access that and help us out. And it's time to do that. So, well, we'll be talking more about that soon, hopefully. Android updates, we kind of already talked about that with the new iOS version, getting things in sync. There's a new version of Android that's ready to go, and Vincent reminded me I just need to click some buttons, but as soon as this, probably tonight when everything's done here. And there's some other features from the old version of iOS that didn't make it the cut in 3.0, and some bug fixes too, so those will be coming soon. Timeline position syncing, that got a lot of attention maybe a month ago, and Vincent said he wants to work on that, so go for it.
Yeah.
I'll work on it too.
The next thing.
I think we know how it should work, but we got stalled a little bit because Micro.blog right now actually does keep track of where you are in the timeline. It just doesn't restore that. So we were halfway there. Speaking of cross-posting, I have had some questions about Nostr support, which is another up-and-coming decentralized social network. Stands for notes and other stuff transmitted by relay, something like that. Nostr. I find it very fascinating. I have mapped out how I want to support it, and I think we will. And I think it's not because we think it's the future necessarily, but it's similar to Blue Sky. We think it's interesting, and people have asked for it, and let's see what happens. Let's build support for it, because I think there's value in Micro.blog being that kind of central hub where you have all your content at your own site, and then you can experiment with sending it out elsewhere and see if it sticks or see if that works for you. And similar, more Fediverse related compatibility improvements. We've had some reports lately of another Mastodon-like service that's been coming up called CalcKey that we can improve the compatibility with that. I believe following between Micro.blog and that does not work reliably at the moment. So we'll be looking at that. Email newsletter improvements coming soon. And then one thing I did want to mention, I've hinted at this before, but it is my goal to open source the rest of the core platform this year. So we will see. We'll have more to talk about and discuss with that, but I think that will be an important milestone when we get there. But a bunch of other things to work on first for everybody. That's what I've got. Should we open it up for questions?
I think we should. I've been collecting. I mean, one of the questions most recently was timeline syncing, as we predicted, and we were ready for that one. So I don't know if you want to say anything more about that.
Yeah, that's a long requested feature since I kind of started working on Gluon as well. Timeline syncing, it's kind of really important. There has been lots of talk behind the scenes, but you just don't see it. That's the problem. So yeah, we'll get to it this year, definitely. Yeah. And when we get it, I think it'll be one of those things where I'm kind of kicking myself that we put it off. And I know for those of y'all who have followed my career before Micro.blog, I know it's silly that I created a timeline sync service for Twitter
called TweetMarker years and years and years ago. That was really the first and only way to sync your timeline across Twitter apps, and we still don't have it. So I get that. We'll get it.
Irony not lost on this this crew here. Okay, well, let's turn to some other subjects. And one that I think is interesting is somebody asked, and I won't be able to keep track of who asked what. So I'm asking because I think everybody will be interested, is when can we expect to import images from Glass or Letterboxd when importing to our blog via RSS? And I would like to just put in my own personal, request. That's, I guess, why I put this question first. Is I'm interested with Letterboxd because I think it's really interesting and complementary platform. And Chris Campbell talked about it today in his presentation. It's a great way to keep track of films that you've watched and also share your opinions. And I do have my Letterboxd feed going into Micro.blog, so it shows up in the timeline, but I would like it to be part of my blog. Like, I don't want to have to go grab my Letterboxd reviews and post them manually. So, but I don't want to upstage the question about images because that came from the community. So there's two Letterboxd related questions.
And so we did recently add like half of this. So you can, if you add your Letterboxd feed now, you can set it to import to your blog. It will copy the text to your blog, but it does not copy the images. So yeah, that's the missing piece. And I guess for Letterboxd, that would be like movie, posters and things like that. So those would link back to Letterboxd, which is kind of fine, but not great. And if Letterboxd went away or something like that, it would be even worse. So I plan to work on that. The Glass, I want to mention a couple other things about that. This actually came up when I was talking to O'Malley yesterday, Glass, because he is a big fan of it. And I have a subscription. I haven't really used it in a while, to be honest. And I'd like to use it a little more so I can get up to speed with what they've been working on. We had a feature in the old iOS app where if you shared from Glass to the iOS app, it automatically grabbed your Glass photo and attached it to the post and uploaded it. I thought that was a really neat feature. That didn't make the cut for 3.0, but it is on our list to add in 3.1 or a subsequent update. I liked that feature because it was a neat workaround for the fact that Glass doesn't have an API that we can kind of officially integrate with. But yeah, getting back to the real question, there should be either setting, or it probably should just do it automatically, that when you add an RSS feed from Glass to your blog and set it to import, it also copies the photos to your blog storage. I agree. So we'll work on that soon. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. So here's a good question about people who are using premium accounts and want to do podcasts. Can we have a separate image and bio fields for using with podcasts? That's kind of a nuts and bolts, but important question because podcast, like the Apple Podcast directory takes information from your blog, your RSS feed. So what's up with that?
So with this one, we might need to follow up more on this question in chat or an email or whatever. There is a setting where you can have custom cover art for the podcast separate from your blog, but maybe this question is more along like per episode, artwork or something else that I'm not thinking about right now. Well, so
maybe if the person who asked it wants to follow.
Yeah, I want to jump in. So there's definitely more we could do there, especially there's no way to do per episode artwork. That would actually be kind of neat if we automatically did that if you had a photo attached to your blog post for the episode. But you can do a custom like podcast title and cover artwork. And I believe there's also a Micro.blog plugin that allows you to override the podcast title or description or something like that. So that's another way. And actually, I really hope One of the things when we added the podcast support, that design screen is doing a lot, and I've been slowly trying to not add anything else to it, and in fact remove some things. And so almost everything that you need to do with podcasts should be done in a plugin, because it just doesn't affect everybody. So it's a perfect candidate to have a plugin that you can control. And because podcasts are really just custom RSS feeds, plugins can do anything with feeds. So that's there's a lot we could do, and a lot of other people could do too if they want to build podcast specific plugins for Micro.blog. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea as well. Let me see. So we have someone asked, do you think additions like the pronoun field will help further conversations about community diversity and inclusion? Visibility of Micro.blog features could be helpful in this regard.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I guess.
Do you want to answer that one?
No, I want you to answer it, but
Okay.
I was going to say technically a yes or no question, which I. But
yes. Let's move on. Yes,
I would like you to elaborate on that.
Yeah. Yes, and I wanted to mention one thing with the pronouns that I'm not sure if we described perfectly. One of the reasons we had waited is we weren't sure how it was going to roll out to different apps, and then we decided we're overthinking it. We just need to roll it out. And I did want to mention that it is included in 3.0, so on iOS. So the pronouns are split out separately. And then on the web and in other places, they're put like at the end of the bio for you automatically. So there's more we can do there to make sure that we're bubbling up that in the right place. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it was a nice, finally feature to work on. And I have no doubt that it'll start other conversations about things we should be focused on.
Yeah, and actually in connection with that, a couple of people have asked us what's the status of another feature request that's been made for name pronunciation fields. And I would just say, right up top, the status is we don't know. We need to look into it. We haven't put it a specific priority level on it. We just committed to a public roadmap on community related features like this, and this is one of the ones that will be on that roadmap. But it's a really interesting inclusionary tool, because a person's name is important, and I think there are some tools we could work with that would help people even record their pronunciations of their names. But just like the pronoun field, while technically anybody can put in their bio what they want, so you could have had your pronouns, if you wanted them in your bio, or you could write out a phonetic spelling of your name. The point is that when we make the features, specific features, and make them easy, we help normalize the idea that we should be all thinking about this, and that it is not. There is no default, or everybody. We want to respect individuality this way, and also to promote it. So I know that we have not started to dig into that, how to do that. So I'm not asking you when are we going to do it, but I just wanted to throw that out there because it's coming up in the questions that people are putting out there.
Yeah, and that's a good point about like the value in separating it out into a separate field is, it doesn't and I see a mention in the chat with like, if you tack it onto about, it gets used in places potentially in your theme that you don't want it. So having a separate field is really useful. And with I haven't thought about pronunciation too much, to be honest. But I like the idea that there could be, as a separate field, there could be some audio connection, hit play to hear how it sounds, that kind of thing, which wouldn't be easy to do if it was not a real feature. So cool idea.
Yeah. Let's see. I think somebody asked another sort of nuts and bolts question here. Will it be possible to have slug and URL control for posts via metadata? Good question. Which, if you're going, before you dive into it, could you explain why the person has this question for people who don't know what a slug is and URL control?
Yeah. So the slug is usually it's the part of the URL at the end of a blog post that with Micro.blog usually just uses the first like 3 words of your post. So if I have a post that says micro camp is today, like it would be like micro-camp.is, which isn't really great, but that's what it would be right now. And it would also be .html because we, for better or worse, years ago, we made the decision that it would be .html, and some people love that, and some people do not like that at all. They prefer it to just be like / so it looks a little cleaner. This is a long requested feature. Long story short, there are a couple places in Micro.blog that assume that's the format. And so we just need to spend a little time unraveling those places, and then it can be totally customizable. For people that have used Hugo themes, maybe if you looked at it, that the slug and the URL format is customizable already. So in theory, you could kind of hack that together, but it will not be perfect because, like I said, Micro.blog assumes certain things about the URL. So we definitely need, I think there's a couple things. We need an option to disable the .html for people that don't want it. Our standalone pages already don't have that. They're already whatever / so it would be more consistent for so .htm in the. We're not going to support .htm in the. I see that mentioned in the chat. So disable the .html. It would be one option, or maybe we would just switch to that. Because I think almost everybody would be fine with that. And then we would just redirect the old URLs. And then the other option would be able to be edit the slug, either probably after you post, to be honest, because I don't personally think we need to have more fields in the posting screen. And that would match how we do standalone pages. If you create a standalone page like about, or, my hobbies or whatever it is, it'll give it a default page, and then you can go edit it later. So it would work probably just like that. So that's a good suggestion, and that's something we've been putting off, but there's no reason why technically we can't support that.
Another question that just popped up that is close to my heart, which is, are there any plans on improving multilingual support for Micro.blog? E.g., setting specific languages on posts so they can be categorized or displayed accordingly. I know there's no specific plan right now in the works because it does happen sometimes. I wake up on Monday and say, "Oh, Manton just released a feature I didn't even know he was working on." But I don't think this is one of them. It's a little.
It's not one of them,
right?
Yeah.
Normal.
That happens.
It happens. It's cool. I don't. So I'm not trying to put you on the spot because, and obviously the questioner is not, because they don't know. But I'm curious what you think about that, and Vincent probably has opinions as well.
Yeah, I'll just go real quick. It's a good idea. I have had discussions with Micro.blog customers before that would like that. Like English isn't maybe their default language, but they post sometimes English and sometimes in other languages, and they'd like to actually set that explicitly. I think it's a great idea. that may be something similar to what we talked about with the slug customizing, or it might be, there's been discussions, especially on the Help Center, about exposing what Hugo calls the front matter for a post, which is basically just kind of arbitrary fields. Micro.blog handles that for you. So if it needs to set categories or dates or whatever, it just does all that. There's been requests to expose that so that you can customize that, and language would be something in there. So that would be another route we could take, is the language would be maybe not a top level kind of user interface, but something that you could edit as in a kind of a generic way. So, I don't know.
I think another nice thing for the roadmap would be to have the web interface in different languages too, to support more, especially in Europe.
That's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, ideally, yes, we would be in multiple language. I can just say from experience, like with a small team like this, is very difficult to maintain localized versions, more than just like a couple. So I want to be sure we could commit to that before we do it. But no, I mean, I agree. It would be nice if it wasn't all in English for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, we've had discussions as well on, the just generally in the community about how people would like to be able to say view a timeline just of posts in a certain specific language. We have quite a few people in Micro.blog who post in languages other than English, and sometimes they do both. But so one, to be able to help those people find each other so they can follow each other. Follow people who are writing in their native language or a language that they want to read and follow. And then there's those of us who like to, who like to learn foreign languages and would enjoy seeing, like in my case, I would follow a feed of all the German language posts, because it helps me. I get better in German, and other people have said the same thing. And we talked about at one point, well, is there a way we could like classify them the way we do with emoji tags? And that quickly fell, to the wayside as an idea because, quickly, flags as an idea for tagging is not going to work. Flags are not coterminous with language groups, and it would be kind of jingoistic to use flags for that purpose. So having some way to categorize that would really help. I think that idea go forward as well. So I look forward to that. I consider it's technical and a community feature. So we'll keep an eye on it. So we're getting close to the time we have to wrap up. Let me look at all my questions and see if I can. Well, here's a question which I think it would be good to end on, which is, can we talk about the vision for Micro.blog and how it will balance sustainable growth, support for features that the community wants, and being a safe and welcoming place for people whose identities have been historically marginalized? It's not a quick question, but I wanted to put it out there anyway, because I think it's a question we want to keep, that summarizes things that we want to keep our eyes on, and as we move forward, balancing sustainable growth. We've been we have enjoyed a sustainable level of growing, small but growing, not over like overloaded with new users. Although this last year has been a challenge since with Twitter and all of Twitter's travails, leaving people fleeing for new opportunities. And I know that has definitely stretched us to the limit sometimes, in the past year since last fall with technical challenges that we were not intending to have to face. So, but to balance that with features that the community wants, and being a safe and welcoming community. Again, we've talked about yesterday in the community panel that we're putting a couple of things into place to help us calculate this balance, a roadmap for these kinds of features. And also I'm committing to making myself available to talk to people with community manager office hours. And those are going to start next week on Friday. And obviously I can't be in all time zones at once, or I can't be in convenient time zones for everybody. But I'm going to work on going forward on trying to change that up, or maybe, split up the office hours so that, we can make it more convenient for different time zones. But it'll be a work in progress. I can say that. But by giving the community a place to, to express the what they hope to see and what they, what concerns they have. I'm pretty confident, we will be able to balance these things. And we do talk about these things. We do work on these things, and we're going to just be more systematic about making sure we keep these things moving forward. So that's my take on that question.
Yeah, I mean, we've been growing steadily, but still fairly slowly over the last few years, which is, it's good and bad. I mean, it is nice because it gives us time to react and improve things. I mean, I've been watching just like the Blue Sky growth, for example. They are still fairly small. I think they hit like 70,000 users or something like that. So very small compared to, millions, but they had huge growth, like literally in 1 week. And so there was a lot of things that this is just a challenge for, for them to keep up with. So I feel a little bit lucky that we haven't, that we've kind of just steadily grown. But I mean, the plan is to keep growing. So yeah, staying on top of it has always been really important. I really like the more I thought we've wanted to do more to bring more people in also. And, obviously the team is growing a little bit more than it was a couple of years ago, but I really like the idea of bringing more people in on the community side. And that'll just help us be set up for better success and to stay on top of issues. Yesterday I thought there was a neat discussion about like what to call like other people that are helping, like micro ambassadors or micromanagers or whatever. I think that was kind of a fun discussion. But I really want to make that a priority so that when we're talking next year, we have, I think it'll just be really helpful to have more people that are ready to solve problems.
Sounds good. Yeah, we would have had Sven here to talk on this platform panel because he got married and he has some wedding party or something, I believe. So
that's not important.
Priorities, man. Yeah. Priorities, whatever. But Sven, as people may know him from of course, Micro.blog at SOD, and last year for MicroCamp, he gave a presentation on accessibility that was very influential in the community and elsewhere. So, but I'd like to see more faces talking about what we're talking about today next year at MicroCamp. Yep. Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered a lot. I know there's probably a couple questions we didn't get to, so maybe I was just kind of skimming through the chat, and I'll maybe try to catch up a little bit in the chat.
Okay.
Also, and or in the happy hour, we could keep a couple questions going.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah,
people
will be happy to hear about new features. So
just from talking to some people on the timeline on Micro.blog in general over the last few years and last few months, just keep the feature requests coming. We all read them, we listen to them. I know sometimes it feels like we don't listen, but we see them. So keep them coming, like timeline syncing. It will happen.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. And like I read a lot of blog posts. I mean, I see people posting like longer blog posts about Micro.blog, and I don't always link or mention or thank the person, but I read all of those, and I love seeing that, like just whatever your write-up is about like what worked for Micro.blog for you, what didn't work, things like that. We're still small enough where I feel like we can actually read and see most of that feedback. So it's great. Thanks for mentioning that.
I have to just a shout out to Simon Woods, who he just in the chat, he's calling happy hour feature request town hall. And Simon has been I wanted the shout out is because Simon's been super helpful during MicroCamp, and if you aren't following him already, at Simon Woods and also at TIL. I think that's things I learned today. I learned he has compiled a lot of helpful resources about Micro.blog, and I know he's working on redesigning that site. So when he launches the redesign, we will definitely let everybody know. But just one of many, many helpful people at Micro.blog. And also obviously somebody with a big sense of humor. Feature request town hall starts in about 5 minutes. If you haven't entered the door prize drawing yet, you want to do that in the next 5 minutes, and I will put a quick link out and give you a couple more minutes to enter, and then I'm going to do the random selection. But we have some great fun and on topic, I would say, prizes, including a Mars Edit license that Daniel Jalkut donated. And I know after Miraz's presentation on Mars Edit, everybody who has a Mac wants a Mars Edit now. Well, thanks a lot, Manton and Vincent, for doing this panel. And thank you to everybody who asked questions and have been following along. And I'm sorry we couldn't get to every question, but we will try to answer what we can, either in the chat or we'll follow up one way or the other. And thanks for being here at MicroCamp. We're going to post a link for the Zoom. That's the other thing we got to do. We'll post that on the
it'll be on the website.
I forget what
and
we're
then
doing. It'll be on the website.
Yeah, I think I linked it already just on the website before we started, and then we can put a link in the chat too.
Yeah. Yes, we'll do that so that you can find us. Go take a break, everybody stand up and stretch, and then come back to chit chat at a happy hour. Thanks again. That's it for MicroCamp 2023. And it was really great. I really appreciate everybody doing their presentations, and also all of your patience just getting it together. It it's been an interesting year for big projects for us. So take care, and we'll see you at the happy hour.
Thanks, everyone.